It's very complicated, but the question is it better? Or
Yeah.
even, is it good?
Yeah. Well, here it is. This video is about one thing.
Optimism?
Attempted optimism combined with discovering if Mercedes has ruined the C63.
Mm-hmm.
The new C63, which is not actually that new. A bunch of people drove it like more than a year ago in Europe, right? No more V8, people.
Right.
One of the best engines for a sports sedan ever is...
They had a number of them. I mean, they had a number of V8s. All were amazing.
It was like Frank's hot sauce. They put that shit on everything.
And it was great. And then this one, they cut the displacement in half from the last one. Last one had a 4-liter twin turbo. This has a 2-liter turbo.
But no, don't. But before you're like, that's bad. It's okay because they also made it a hybrid. It's
well, let's throw out the specs that might get people excited.
Okay,
671 overall horsepower.
Oh, I just got a
729 pound-feet of torque. So huge. I mean, those are big numbers.
Yes, to move around 4,800 pounds.
It is 760 pounds heavier than the last C63.
Right. And so right now you're probably thinking, man, if it wasn't that much heavier, it wouldn't need 670 horsepower and 750 torques.
Yeah.
It also has an electric-driven turbocharger, similar to what Porsche's doing. Mm-hmm. It has an electric motor on the rear axle with a 2-speed gearbox.
Correct.
It has all-wheel drive. It has rear steer.
It's got an E-diff.
It has an E-diff.
Adaptive suspension.
Yes. And, like, so many modes.
It has 8 different driving modes. It has all the technology that is practically available. I mean, it's a lot of hand-me-down from F1 and from other things, but it's very complicated, but the question is it better? Or even, is it good?
Yeah. Well,
let's find out.
Folks, the holiday season's here. Time to start thinking of gifts for those important folks in your life. Stuff that maybe they carry around every day. That's right. One of our favorite sponsors is on today's video, Exter, with the future of wallets. Exter is so much more than just wallets, but at its heart, it is a connected system of everyday carry goods that can help you move through the day more efficiently. Headlining that is the wallet, right? You've got the fan-out vibe, which I love. It's RFID-resistant, aluminum anodized wallet with fanning out those cards. That's where it starts. Then you've got the optional accessories that attach to the wallet using the rubber band. I've got the cash clip on there, but there's also your basic backing plate and, of course, the coin tray, so you can hide a couple quarters for those old school parking meters in your Exter wallet. There's the Finder card, which is the slimmest tracking device you can get right here. Stick that in there and you can track your Exter wallet all over the world. There is so much to choose from at Exter, and they're having a huge holiday sale, plus giving a little extra to the Smoking Tire. Hit the link in the video description. Check out the merch, build your package, and gift it to someone in your family or friend circle. 55% off site-wide at Exter with our code. Hit that link in the description. Get it for the holidays, and thank you to Exter for sponsoring today's video with their sweet gadgets.
Very different sound than the old one.
It sounds like the CLA or GLA 45.
Yes.
Now, it does have more power from the gas engine than those cars do. It's a 470.
Yeah, 469.
Yeah.
It's the most, they reminded us, it's the most powerful 4-cylinder in a production car.
And like, okay.
That is a lot.
That's a lot. But the C63, it was never the fastest car in its class. But the sound and the vibes is what,
malfunction.
Well, that says transmission malfunction, or possibly diff malfunction. We should do a launch. That'll fix it.
Race start not possible.
No, well, I guess you can't do a race start with a check engine light.
Should we turn off and on again?
Maybe.
Let's do that real quick.
Well, I guess that eliminates the possibility of a launch.
Okay.
Which I will say is too bad, because we did one before, and it does that well.
It does, but it did something very strange. So during the presentation, they say the electric motor acts as torque fill, right?
Yes.
You won't feel those shift moments.
Right.
Except the 1 to 2 shift felt like I was 1 to 2 shifting at 15. It was like quite a stutter.
It was. And then the 2-3 shift and beyond, it then torque filled.
Right. So that was a really strange, poor programming, I would say.
Just a correction here. Mercedes heard our complaints about the jerkiness of the 1-2 shift, and they thought, maybe that isn't how it's supposed to be. So just in case, they gave us a second car to check against. And what do you know? This one is actually quite smooth. So we think that first car was having some kind of an issue. And so anything we say from here on out regarding the jerkiness of the 1-2 shift can be ignored. Now, back to our regular programming. There's a lot, the gauge cluster looks like there is a lot going on. There's a lot of, it shows every setting that you're in for all the different attributes. It shows a bunch of temperatures and things like that. It's got your ADAS stuff up there and a numerical tach. There's a lot happening.
Well, you can change it. I mean, there's like 8 different screens, which is really nice, but I wanted one. What's funny, and we've seen this problem on a lot of cars, this is I think the sportiest mode, and my gear selector or indicator is still size 4 font.
And in the bottom corner.
In the bottom corner.
Why isn't it right in the middle, above the
Let's see, if I go to Super Sport.
Oh, now we've got a G-force gauge. That's helpful.
That looks like a targeting system on an F-35 plane, though.
So we've got this battery pack under the back seat.
Yes.
Right? Under/behind the back seat, which does take up some of the trunk and create a little bit of an awkward thing there. It drives the motor on the rear axle.
Right.
So unlike Porsche's 911 hybrid, but like the Artura and 296, you can drive on electric power for a very short while.
Yeah, they said it's about 8 miles at a normal speed. It will go up to 81 miles per hour, which is pretty impressive. This is basically the same exact system I drove in the S-Class E-Performance. But I will say that the rear steer in this is much better than it was in that car.
Okay.
If you remember when we drove, remember the SL, the yellow one we drove, where it felt like the back tires had popped.
Yeah.
And then the cars we drove after that felt better. This feels like they've updated the programming.
Yeah, the GT was better.
Yes.
So this is more like that. But the GT has then the great V8 also, which is really what kind of makes that car.
Definitely.
I'll be nice to it for a minute. I think it looks good. The interior is spacious. I like the design of these air vents on the dashboard. There's good cup holders, good practical things, right?
I would add to that, this is the same base price as the new Alpha Quad, the Giulia Quad.
Yeah.
And this interior is way nicer and more impressive looking for the same money.
10 years later.
I know, I'm just saying. It's a lot nicer in here for the same money.
Sure, okay. I have cooled seats going. That's pleasant. How does it feel to you to drive?
I'm very disappointed. Like, I want to be, I've loved the C63 for so long, but there were immediately so many problems. The steering is totally numb, absolutely numb. The brake pedal is very, firm, requires a lot of pressure, but there's so little feedback from it, and the force of it on your foot is so strong so early that my brain thought, well, surely I'm near threshold braking right now.
Yeah.
But I was not slowing down that much, and I realized there were 2 more inches of pedal, but because there was no progression in the difficulty of the pedal.
Yeah.
And we already talked about the shift point thing, and then you go back to the power. So it has all this power, blah, 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 blah. The 0 to 60 time and quarter mile time in this is slower than an M3 CS or an M3 xDrive, which has 130 fewer horsepower, give or take.
Well, but it all is because it weighs
900
pounds less, right?
900
pounds less.
It weighs 900 pounds less. Now, where this car shines, to be fair, is in the rolling like 5 to 60 range, because then the e-drive like helps it off the line when the M3 would be trying to build speed.
Yeah, and the electric turbo spools up right away.
Exactly. So that the technology helps there, but dynamically, I've also felt like the suspension is too stiff. It feels like there's a lot of spring, and we've hit a number of bumps where the back feels like we're hitting bump stops on a relatively smooth road, and it doesn't feel nearly as locked down as the M3 does. Here, now we can actually explore it. We're not behind a Tesla anymore. Like that.
Yeah.
Just that just felt like it should have absorbed what was a pretty mild bump, and it kind of kicks the back up.
We are in Sport Plus right now. So
we are, but
that is the stiffest mode. You're going to put it in individual, which is my preferred.
Yes.
That's individual's got the powertrain into race, and then the suspension is set to comfort. So, any better? A little bit.
A little bit, but not as much as I would like.
That was a big bump.
Was that a big bump?
That was a pretty big bump.
All right, they don't look big. You know, it's an amazing machine. The fact that it transmits the power from the rear motor through the drive shaft to the front if the rear loses traction. That's insane. Like, that's an amazing bit of engineering.
Yeah.
But have we ended up with a better car? I don't know. I'll pull over, you can drive.
There are other things that are amazing bits of engineering that aren't necessary, or, like ChatGPT. Amazing bit of engineering.
Yeah.
Actively making our lives worse.
Jeff Bezos' clock in a mountain.
Yeah. Now, I don't expect, everything to be covered in suede for $89,000. And there's a lot of things in this car that money has to go towards. But the glove box door and the lower half of the dash are very hard plastic that I would expect in like a Civic.
Yeah, I agree.
It's so funny. Like, this car is a perfect example of like why speed isn't everything. One of the best automotive journalism memories I have is driving the 15 C63 across Germany.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it had this hot rod motor in it with an amazing idle. And it was like objectively, not as good as, it wasn't as fast as the M3, or I think it was an M5 that Harris was driving. But it just had this unbelievable sound, and the way it glugged through the parking lot. And I understand that, like, fuel efficiency is a thing we need, but man, the complexity of all of this, it's so video gaming. Like, I actually think the Ioniq 5N is like more involved, and it's electric.
The steering and the brakes are better. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's electric.
I mean, and efficiency-wise, this thing gets twice the MPGs of an M3. So they've accomplished that goal.
Great. Is that why people buy C63?
100% no. And it's not why that segment exists. Like, the M3, the Alpha, even the stuff from Lexus. Like, it was this combination of luxury, excitement, and something that AMG always had above the others, I would say, is attitude. And then there was the era, like when you drove it, where they started to get the handling was good, the transmissions were quick, it wasn't the 5-speed anymore.
Yeah.
For me, that was like, that into like 2020 was the golden age of C63. And it just seems like, either it's EU regulations or it's average fuel economy, I don't know, but this is just, it's not just off the mark with the engine, it's off the mark with the steering isn't there, the brakes aren't there, and that's disappointing.
Yeah. It's just like, it's just not that fun.
It's not. It doesn't have any feeder to it. It doesn't have any like of that spice. But we do have one exhaust tip per cylinder now. So
that's important.
Got that. It's got one up on a Civic Type R.
I mean, individually, the technologies in the car are neat. And the engineering is impressive. And the fact that they can make all this work he said with a check engine light on. But, like, God,
It's true.
I just don't want this. And what's so interesting is the 911 hybrid, right? Just not to go back to this, but the reason it's so good is because the hybrid system is invisible. Okay, you just do not know it's there. It's only 150 pounds heavier, 162 pounds heavier than its non-hybrid variant. It's still a 6-cylinder engine. It still sounds like it's supposed to sound. It's not like they put the 718 motor in the 911, you know, and made it sound completely different, and it felt like the efficiency model.
Right.
This feels like the efficiency model.
Yeah, it does.
And that's just so disappointing, because the old version of this car was like a muscle car hot rod, and it was such a good muscle car hot rod. And I mean, in fairness, there's rumors that maybe by the time this video goes up, maybe a story will come out that's a fact, that they're going to put a V8 back into it. And we came out here today, Mercedes said, come have a go, and we were like, can it be as bad as those people in Europe said it was a year ago? And like, yeah, kind of.
It's cool. It's a full-time all-wheel drive C-Class that has a lot of power.
Yeah.
But the interaction we have with it is now so far off the mark of what its competition has. And that was never the case. And that's a bummer.
Yeah. I can't believe that there's like Korean EVs on the market right now with like better feel and feed. The EV6 GT also, not just the Ioniq 5N. EV6 GT has better body control and better steering than this, and better brakes.
Wow.
It's like, how's that happened? It's crazy.
What are we doing?
You know, sorry to be Debbie Downers here, but that's the vibe of this car, and I think they're going to have a lot of trouble selling these, because I don't think it's what their buyer wants.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Thank you to Mercedes for inviting us. Please don't be too mad. Everyone's probably saying the same thing. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
And remember, always fight your tickets on the Off the Record app, available in the Android and iOS store, or go to offtherecord.com/TST.